Good morning, sir. Yes.
Yeah, my name is Martinus Nanang, and I'm going to moderate the discussion today. But before the presentation, we will have a kind of opening ceremony.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hold on, please. Gimana susunan acaranya? Saya cek dulu. I will talk sometimes in English, sometimes in Indonesian. If it is necessary for the Indonesian participants, I will talk in Indonesian. But I think it will be okay. I hope it is okay for you.
Yes, no problem. No problem.
Ya, jadi teman-teman kita acara pembukaan sekarang nanti, jadi kita ada tahapan acaranya ini. Mulai dari pembukaan ini, kemudian setelah ini ada presentasi, di akhir presentasi sudah presentasi akan ada tanya jawab. Kemudian setelah tanya jawab, nanti saya kalau memungkinkan saya akan membuat summary. Maybe I will make a summary of the discussion today. Now let's start with the first one. In Indonesia, traditionally we start important meetings by singing Indonesian anthem. So mari kita menyanyikan, ya mungkin tidak menyanyikan, kita mendengarkan lagu. Kalau ada satu dua yang mau nyanyi silakan. Lagu Indonesia Raya. So, Indonesia Raya is the name of Indonesian anthem. So silakan persiapan lagunya, Mas Reza. Okay. Actually, everyone should sing together, but we just tested, and voices came out not synchronously. So we asked everyone not to sing. Okay, let's continue with the next program. Kata sambutan dari dekan. opening speech by the Dean, in this case represented by Dr. Ketut Gunawan, Vice Dean 1. Dr. Ketut Gunawan, please. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Dr. Buapan.
Yes, good morning.
And nice to meet you.
Yes.
Okay, I will begin my remarks by saying that Excellencies, distinguished resource person, lecturer, and maybe guests, as well as my beloved student. It is my pleasure to welcome you in this general lecture entitled Social Development Paradigm and Practices in Thailand, which has been organized by the Department of Social Development, Faculty of Social Political Sciences, Mulawarman University. I wish to extend my deep appreciation to the Department of Social Development for creatively initiating this academic gathering to discuss social development issue in this general lecture. I want to particularly thank to the head of the department, Dr. Sukapti, in managing and arranging this academic arrangement. On behalf of the faculty, I am first Vice Dean on Academic Affairs. I would like to say that it is an honor for the faculty with the acceptance of our invitation by a distinguished expert, Dr. Buapan Prumpokping. Sorry if my spelling is not correct. From the Department of Social Development, Faculty of Humanities and Social Science, Konkan University, Bangkok, Thailand. Of course, as a resource person in this international academic gathering. I'm also grateful to Dr. Martinus Nanang, my long time no see friend, a moderator of this general lecture, who will manage and lead this session. My special thanks goes to all participants, consisting of resource person, of course, lecturer, student, and guests. I'm delighted to welcome all distinguished participants. Ladies and gentlemen, this general lecture will shed light on the paradigm and practices in social development in Thailand. And as commonly known, Thailand and Indonesia share some similar experiences in terms of economic development trade, nation building, state building, environmental issues, tourism, unemployment, and etc. As far as I'm concerned, Thailand used to be the most democratic countries in Southeast Asia, along with the Philippines. Recently, with its presidential and parliamentary election in Indonesia, Indonesia has achieved such a prestigious status as most democratic country in Asia, but currently itching to free country to become partly free. This is according to Freedom House global survey on civil liberty and political freedom. Thus, we have some actually similarities. We have similar experiences in terms of development trade, development issues in many fields. Among many similarities, of course, there are some differences, both policies and strategies, implementation and practices, as well as a paradigm adhered by both countries. Because of this, it is a correct decision to invite experts from Thailand to provide insight on Thai experiences in the aforementioned issues. Again, I'm so grateful to Dr. Buapan for accepting our invitation, who would share his knowledge, expertise, and experiences on social development issues. Hope the participant here would have a better understanding of the underlying issues. I am 100% sure that many lessons could be learned from Thai case in dealing with social development issues. Hence, this international general lecture is so meaningful, and great appreciation are expressed in choosing this topic. I would like to conclude my opening remark by encouraging the audience to follow thoroughly the lecture and participate in the discussion through this digital platform of Zoom in the next 2 hours. I wish everyone a successful and fruitful lecture and discussion. Last but not least, I hope this collaborative academic event is a beginning of further cooperation between the two departments, between the Department of Social Development in Mulama University and Department of Social Development in Faculty of Humanities and Social Science, Konkan University, in two countries, Indonesia and Thailand. In the future, we can extend our collaborative effort or cooperation in research, conference, student and lecturer exchange, and the like. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ketugunawan, for the opening speech. Next, we'll have, before the presentation, we'll have photo session. Silakan Mas Reza. Please open your video, everyone. We'll have a photo session. Buka videonya, mahasiswa, supaya wajah yang ganteng dan cantik kelihatan. Ya, masih banyak yang belum buka. Mas Reza gimana?
Ya Pak, ini sudah saya coba
Ya. Kasih tahu kalau sudah selesai ya.
Baik Pak.
Ya, ada dua. Yang satunya tutup.
Sign number 1, 2, 3.
Ya, hitung.
Yang Bapak nih juga, kamu jarang on cam ya, men?
Kena tegur Pak.
Iya, iya Pak, saya jarang.
Gimana Mas Reza? Sudah kah? Halo?
Ya Pak.
Ada.
Oke.
Sudah ya?
Sudah.
Okay. We can continue then. Now, we will enter the presentation or the general lecture by Dr. Buafan from Puping. I hope I spell your name correctly.
Yes, exactly, yes. Mhm.
Before you start with your presentation, please introduce yourselves.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Martinus, the Vice Dean, Professor Ketut Gunawan, distinguished guests, and everyone. I'm excited that we have a large group in the Zoom. So I have seen here, we have over 300 people in the Zoom meeting here. So my name is Buapan Prompakping. Yes, you are pronounced correctly. I'm the lecturer at the Department of Social Development but I am now officially retired from teaching, but continue with the university with a special context. But I'm still, doing things like I'm director of PhD programs in development science. Meanwhile, I'm also the director of research group on well-being and sustainable development. I will talk a little bit more about what I did, what I'm doing, and what I have done in the past few years in my lecture. And so part of that, I also involved with sort of a number of more or less development projects that's sponsored by international and national fundings. One of my projects in the past few years, I led groups of NGO visiting Indonesia. That would be in the past 5 years, I don't know. So we set university in Jakarta, but several NGO in Jakarta, and I myself visit Makassar, where I learned that people from Makassar also, a number of centuries ago migrated to Bangkok and living now in the area called Makassar. Makassar is, I think it's from Makassar. So I was so excited to learn that we have a sort of connection since long history. I would like to say a little bit more about what I'm doing. Is that I'm one of my job is to sort of help CSO in Thailand to build their capacity, like management, project management, finance management, all sort of things. We have a center here in Thailand called Center for Civil Society and Nonprofit Management under Konkan University. We got funding from USAID, and the center is still running, And then that is perhaps my background. Dr. Martinus.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much for your introduction, self-introduction. I think you have engaged in many activities, many scientific and also practical issues in the field of social development. So now, please continue with your presentation. You have 30 to 45 minutes, and then after that, we have Q&A.
Yeah.
Until about maybe 11 o'clock Thailand time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, please.
Thank you. Dr. Martinus, and I would like to first of all share my screen. And you see my screen? You see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Right. If you got the problem, please, because I don't know whether it worked properly or not. Again, I would like to thank the Department of Social Development to invite me in such a special event, special lecture, a general lecture, which I hope, as we already have MOU between your university and Faculty of Humanity and Social Science, I hope that we can continue sort of interactions or contacts. We may sort of have more, how can I say, activities and exchange students or faculty members, as the Vice Dean said. So thank you very much for inviting me in this lecture. Let me just check. Do you hear me okay? My voice is okay?
Yes, okay.
Yeah, it's very clear.
All right, okay. Yeah. So the topic that I will talk about today is sort of social development paradigms and practices in Thailand. And the topics I will sort of go through will cover 4 major themes. First, I would like to introduce a little bit Thailand, a brief history or important timelines in order for the audience who may not sort of familiar with Thailand. And then I will sort of talk a little bit about the meaning and the scope of what we said social development and particularly in terms of theories. I think there's a lot of, there are too many theories under that. So I will sort of a little bit giving its scope. I will sort of, in terms of theory and practice, one of the things I would like to sort of talk here is about the sufficiency economy and together with salient paradigms, development paradigm in Thailand. And then at the end, I will a little bit talking about well-being studies in my faculty, it's a bit not an intention to advertise, but it's good to get to know each other, what we are doing here in Thailand. So this is the map of Thailand. The slide move, the map, move into
Yes.
this. Okay, good. So this is a map of I'm sorry, not Thailand, but is of the region. It's covered, Southeast Asia, China, and many. So in order to sort of get a sense, we are in the same region. So I suppose your university are here in the opposite to Makassar. So it's very close where I went several years ago. So let me start with a long history of the region. So the photo is about Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat is in Cambodia. You may know. So that's perhaps the start of the civilization of our region. I do not claim that Angkor Wat is the first start, but to my knowledge, and in the history, a lot of people mention that people who sort of go into Cambodia at the first time. 1,000 years before is the people from the Iceland, and perhaps from Indonesia as well. But people who built Angkor Wat is Cambodia. Cambodian is Khmer. So, but I mentioned this in order to say that the state in these regions have no clear boundaries, People move from place to place. People move from the Iceland to the mainland, and I don't know whether there are sort of people from mainland move into Iceland or not. But before, in long time in history, because the populations in this region is not so dense, sparsely. So people can move freely because it's such a vast land or area in our region. So, so Thailand, okay, to jump into the history of Thailand. So we enter into the modern period, very recent. That was about 150 years ago, during the reign of King Rama V, where he led a number of reforms and introduced sort of new management and technology into Thailand. That was the same period with the Japanese reform under what we call Meiji period, which but at this moment, if you compare between Thailand and Japan, there's such a big difference. But we start to enter into, modernization, more or less the same period. So our king, King Rama V, reforms the administration. He introduced modern management into Thailand, but under the King Rama V, the 6th, and the 7th, we're still under what we call absolute monarchy. So Thailand changed into democracy with the peaceful revolution in 1932. Why we call peaceful revolutions? So there's no resistance from at that time the government, and no resistance from the people, and there's no casualties, no people die because of the size of the power and the change of the government at that time. So we call it peaceful revolution. But after then, Thailand democracy has gone under a number of challenge, or what I call endless turbulent. From time to time, the military intervenes, and then we have a general elections, and the military intervenes again. And until now, although we have a sort of government from general elections, but there's some sense of military control in our political. So that is since 1933. Although we have democracy, more or less democracy, but from time to time, the military involved in political. So during 1960s, from 1960s onwards, there was Vietnam War, and that shaped the Thai history significantly. This is partly because Thailand sent troops to help the U.S. military in Vietnam, to help Vietnam to fight against Viet Cong at that time. So we we sent over 40,000 military to Vietnam. And it's also important because the United States of America, who lead the war in Vietnam War, also support Thailand in many ways, including development. And at that time, they don't. We didn't call USAID. We didn't call USID. What was we call at that time? US something I cannot remember. So the help or the assistance, particularly technical assistance, the US lent to Thailand, made available to Thailand. That's significantly shaped development of Thailand during the Vietnam War, you know. And some academics, some scholars said that, in fact, the economic growth of Thailand during Vietnam Wars significantly contributed by spendings of US military in Thailand and in Vietnam, you know. So that is during 1960s to 1970s. So after the end of Vietnam War, you know, I have to mention that during Vietnam War, we also have a sort of communist movement in Thailand, and number of you know, parts of Thailand, particularly remote areas, during 1970s, under the influence of communist insurgencies. So there was armed fights in a number of places in Thailand. But after Vietnam War, soon after, the fight between the fight of the Communist Party in Thailand ended, and that is particularly due to the order of the Prime Minister office to, you know, to give pardon to people who involved with the Communist Party at that time. So no criminalization to those people, and that's a significant factor lead to an end of the fight between Thai government and the Communist Party at that time. And after then, you know, the end of 1980 to 1960s, Thailand moved towards, you know, economic growth. And at that time, I think I'm start my lecture careers in the university. Thailand was known as a sort of a miracle of economic growth. You know, growth rate was very high, above 10%. I mean, annual growth. We almost moved into sort of what we call next newly industrialized country at that time. But unfortunately, in 1997, there was a sort of economic crisis that started from Bangkok, and people know it as, you know, Tom Yam Kung crisis. Tom Yam Kung is a sort of hot soup, hot prawn soup. That means the economics crisis begin from Bangkok, from Thailand. So the crisis was triggered by the bubble price of real estate. You know, the price is gone beyond, you know, the reality. So when the investors get the sense that that is going to be a problem, they withdrew their money from Thailand, and within a day, you know, the Thai economy collapsed because the bank has no money to sort of to their customer who rush to withdraw their money from from the bank, and the crisis also sent a shock across the global economy. I think Indonesia at that time also hit by the crisis as well, 1997. But surprisingly, Thailand economy recovered very quick. 1997, the crisis start. After 1997, a few years after, we get a new government that led by Thaksin, our previous prime minister, who is now, living outside Thailand, and with a strong leadership of the politician at that time, Thailand can recover the very quick and get back to a sort of a strong economic growth and become a leading economy of the regions during in early 2000s. So, but unfortunately, after that, few years after Thaksin government, we enter into a sort of a turmoil, a political turmoil until now. Just summarize a bit about the key timeline and the history of Thailand. At the end, after Thaksin government, there was a movement to a sort of against Thaksin governments for the reason that at that time, capital risks expand very quick in Thailand, and that spurred corruptions and a number of I may call social development problems. Although we have a strong economic growth, but we have corruption. We have a number of drugs abuse and all sort of social problems. And so there was a movement against Thaksin government, and then the response to movement also create a number of mass protests. Right now we enter into a sort of a youth movement. In the past 2 years, they don't, how can I say, they don't want to be under the rule of the military, although the military rules help to stabilize our political situation, but the youth don't like it. So this is together with, we can see a sort of a strong expansion of Chinese economy into Chinese trading into the region. I have to leave the history there, but maybe if you have more questions, we can sort of expand a little bit in order to save time. I have to keep my eye on my watch. Okay. Moving on. What are the challenges that we are facing now? I think this is not only Thailand, this is a global challenge. First of all, we are facing with what we call value disputes. So the youth see things older people say it's valuable, it's important, but young generation see it, this is sort of not my life. I don't like this sort of things. Some people say this is development. Some people say this is not development. So we are in a sort of dispute of values, It's more than class conflicts. class conflicts is a dispute in terms of economy, but this is a dispute concerned with basic values of society. What is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, something like that. And this is not only in Thailand, and I think in Malaysia, in Indonesia, you would have some sort of similarities with Thailand in that problem. Second challenge is the uncertainties. This come from our development, our previous development, that we enter into a sort of a period of digital technology. So it changes not only in terms of our everyday life, the industries that expand into our country have changed, how can I say, erode our environments, erode sort of our forests, and we are now entering into a sort of a climate change period. So there are a number of changes, not only from digital technology development, but also from what we call the first industry. I will talk about it a little bit after then, So this change gives a lot of uncertainties, This week, we have sort of enough food to eat, but the next week, the price of some food, for example, rise up, eggs rise up, some food, we run shortage of supply, not because of production, but also because of political, something like there's sort of strikes of transportation business, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of uncertainties in here. And next, the challenge is every change is high stake, mean high cost, involve number of people. If it changes, it will impact a number of people, not, for example, the digital device, the digital technology, the smartphone, you see, not only about urban people, but, smartphone right now in Thailand, almost, every household have at least T mobile phone, mobile smartphone. So everything, created by chance, created by smartphone, it sends an impact through number of people, So this is what we call high stake. And finally, every change, every problem, every risk require urgent response. You must do it now, today, tomorrow. You cannot wait until otherwise it will be a sort of badly impact. So this is a sort of the challenge, and not only Thailand, but I think this is a global challenge. Let's move on to let's move on to sort of history and sort of challenge of our society, to move into a little bit theoretical things, So meaning as a scope of social development. So what do we mean by social development? I think by theories, social development is a sort of a distinctive idea that involve developing countries, only developing countries. When we talk about social development, in Western theories, I've been spending some time in England studying my PhD. The word social development or social development theories was not common, I found. The most common for them is international development, economic development, or sort of thing like that. But social development is not, is very rarely used. So what do we mean by social development? In here, I think there's two different meanings. So in a narrow sense, social development means the development concerned with education, health, some sort of basic services of government, social assistance, things like that, social welfare, something like that, in order to sort of improve quality of life of people. But also there is a broader definition of social development, which is, to me, it refers to a societal transformation, not only the improvement of health, but you need to transform the language we use now is ecosystem of the society. So that is the meaning and the scope that we are going to talk about. But I will focus more on, as societal transformation. So, of course, in Thailand and Indonesia, I think the word social development in narrow sense and in broader sense, it interchangeably, we not bother to to define a clearly boundary to separate between that two ideas, and sometimes it's not useful, but what I would like to draw your attention is that social development in Thailand, in academic use, it's relevant to the history of Thai university as well. We use social development in order to resist to economic development, in order to respond to the development at that time that focused on economic growth. And that was around, 30 years before, where the word social development was, introduced. In Thai, we call Patana Sangkom, which more or less opposite to economic development or economic growth, or in Thai language, it Patana Sethakit, So in Thai universities, we based on that movement, we first introduced a study program called social development in our leading university called NIDA, National Institute of Development and Development Administration, NIDA, the university, Thai University in Bangkok. That was in early 1990s, the social development was introduced. So after then, we have, we evolve bachelor degree, master degree, PhD in development studies or development science, expanding to the university in Thailand. But the key idea of social development is, I would like to, stress here, is the development that more than economic development, more than economic development. Okay, we need economic growth, but not only economic growth. We need to do more in order to achieve social development. That is sort of the definition, the very broad definition that I can say. Now, let me talking a little bit about the paradigm. As the keywords here in my lecture, it is about paradigm. I believe a number of you particularly, faculty members, professor here, may sort of get used to with Thomas Kuhn, who sort of wrote a book called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. And that's the first use of the word paradigm. But after then, the book published early 1970s, something like that, 40, 50 years ago, 40 years ago. But after then, the word paradigms was permeated into, management, into all sort of academics, including the policy circle as well. Well, what is it, the paradigm? In social science, particularly in sociology, the paradigm provides principles of foundation and guiding practice of what we call normal science. Normal science is another word which may be easily understanding is dominant science. Normal science or dominant science is more or less the same. So the paradigm influence the practice. So the research under normal science will reaffirm the theories, the principle of foundations of the normal science. Whereas if you found anomalies, something strange, you will try to, get rid of it and put aside, not to sort of give it importance. Particularly the anomalies that cannot be explained by the principles or the foundations of the normal science. So what we do is we repeat the theory. Not normally when we do research, we will repeat the theory. Okay, I collect the data here and the data show that it confirms this theory, that theory. When it does not confirm, you cannot explain it. You can just, okay, not to give it importance. So according to Thomas Kuhn, we will be able to sort of to break through the principle or the foundation of the Mosai is only when we, what we call, what in his word, he called paradigm shift, or we reject the dominant paradigm. So I mentioned the paradigm here in the sense that, in my feeling that in practice, the paradigm, social development paradigm and practice, we are sort of, we are, I don't want to say that we are imprisoned, or we are fallen within the theory of Western theory of development, and sometimes difficult to escape because our institutions, like I myself get trained from, Western theory. So when coming to Thailand, we just practice the principles or foundation that we got trained from England. So this is my sense. Perhaps social development need to move away from the present idea, the idea that the theory that we are using now. But in order to do this, we have to reject the dominant paradigm. So I have no time to go into detail here, but if we sort of in the future, I'm writing a book on here, but it's unfortunately in Thai. So this is what I feel it's important. So in dominant paradigm, if we want to explain how our society transforms, which in my sense is social development. So the paradigm guided us to see that all countries outside Western Europe or North America are underdeveloped. And this idea just happened after the Second World War, when we start to develop. And after that, the development was proposed that our society, the underdeveloped country, needs to be transformed, and the transformation is particularly you need to shift from tradition to modern society. And of course, the path of transformation is the same as those happen with Western Europe and North America. Or to put it in short, in order to transform our society, in order to develop our society, we need to industrialize our country. Right, okay. Okay, I touched a little bit about it already. So what do we mean by social development from that theory? So first, very salient themes in the past, very salient theories in the past 40 years is modernization. It is the application of technologies and knowledge that produced in the West to drive the transformation of our country. Or to put it more narrow, it's about economic growth, which is about the generation of wealth that will result in, or it's a precondition of the improvement of quality of life. Meaning that when you want to get rid of poverty, for example, in our countries, you need to create a economic growth. That's why the language we use in Thailand, in our national plan, we need to create this, rate of economic growth not lower than 5% annual growth, for example. So because we see growth will result in people to be employed, the availability of employment, and therefore people will earn income, and from that incomes they will improve their quality of life. And this is all logics of social development that we now. What is the realities in Thailand? Not only in Thailand, but in a number of places of the world. We more and more dependent on knowledge and technologies of the West. This is very clear to the universities. The course we offer in the universities right now, it's sort of more or less the means to transfer technology from the West that have already. So I am now. I will spend about 10 or 15 minutes more to end my presentation. I'm sorry, it's too long presentation. Right, okay.
Yes, I think it's okay.
Yeah, okay. Let me continue. So first of all, the dependence on knowledge and technology of the West. The destruction of natural resources, because in industries we import from the West. Sometimes it's what we call sunset industries, consume a lot of energies, produce a lot of pollutions like paper mills, like sugar canes, whatsoever, sugar mills whatsoever, right? And together with the destruction of natural resources, it also all sort of social problems. For example, generation gaps. In the families, parents and kids cannot get along very well. You get a problem with disciplining. Give instructions to your kids. Your kids will sort of more or less listening to the clips or believe in the clips that they learned from the internet, from their mobile phones. The problem of digital device, people who get access to digital technology will sort of earn a lot of money, earn a lot of wealth, where people, most of people will be sort of just the consumer. Unemployment heightened, rate of crime heightened. Corruptions, all sort of problems come along with, development. I cannot list it all for, in Thailand. And some problem, it's right from the beginning of our development. It's still there, this new problem, we are lacking of, institutions to regulate, to control, or to deal with. So our existing traditional institutions, or social or cultural institutions, cannot deal with the emerging new problems. So on top of those, it's sort of inequalities. I think in Thailand, this is very important, very significant. So we are successful in terms of economic growth. We are successful in terms of adoption of technology from the West, but the gap between the rich and the poor is, larger and larger. So today, perhaps 5% of the richest of the population of Thailand control over 50% of the wealth in Thailand. So 5% control over 50% of the wealth. And when I'm talking about the wealth, I mean income, lands, and property, all sort of things. Yeah. So inequality is very important, very significant problems in Thailand. Let me jump over some slides because some already mentioned. So, do we have alternatives, paradigms or practice of social development? Of course, I believe yes, but this is not easy answer. Let me in Thai context, I would like to here introduce the sufficiency economy, which is strongly promoted by our government since the past two decades already. So our previous king, Bhumibol proposed the sufficiency. It's not development model, it's more or less philosophy. Yeah. So in this philosophy, it's involved three pillars. The first, what we mean by sufficient economy is referred to the middle path, not too big, not too small, the balance between production and consumptions, not only produce and produce, but, and then you end with, having a number to the quantities of surplus and the price plummet and all sort of thing. The second pillar is reasonableness. This is a little bit, as I said, a philosophy. So when here the definition can be the actions that consistent to the context. The action here is production and consumption. You're going to not to produce something. It's not necessary to produce. You're not going to produce something that just only to create your wealth, but destroy the environment, something like that, And the third one is immunity. Which means the readiness to respond to the threats or change. Or here, if the words we are currently using now is adaptive capacity, the ability to adapt. I'm thinking we can think about that this is the coronavirus. Right now, we don't have immunity, so we are now in chaos. In social cultural things, if we have sort of readiness or ability to adapt to new situation, that will be a sort of help to transform our society. So we can see this is my interpretation, So the idea is consistent to a number of development theories, and particularly the idea that negates to economic growth or refutes the idea of economic growth. There are a number of people writing books right now, and one important movement we call degrowth idea. Degrowth not only, not to make the economy stagnant, but you have to choose what growth you would sort of adopt, something like that. So we can see an example of the similar idea with the sufficient economy, something like small is beautiful, and a green economy. I will talk a little bit more. And to anarchist movement, which is very the strong movement in Europe, they can get back to natural states and and very similar to the idea of, to me, the idea of sufficiency economy. And the idea is very relevant to sustainabilities, you know. The UN international platforms recognize and held the idea as, you know, promote sustainabilities. And I already mentioned the philosophy the adopt by the state's development right now. But in practice, you know, the idea of sufficiency economy is mostly, you know, adopt in agricultural development, particularly what we call, you know, integrated development, integrated farming or something like that, and with a strong support or subsidize of the government, you know. But in modern economy, in industry, I'm not sure how the sufficiency economy can be applied. Let me move on to sort of, as you know, sufficiency economy is very relevant to agriculture. This is a photo of Jonathan Ricks. Just give you some sense of rural Thailand a little bit, you know. This is a photo from Thailand, I believe, from Jonathan Ricks, who's a professor in United Kingdom. So there's a good infrastructures, like you got a good water canals, you know, agriculture can become mechanized, but everywhere it's indebtedness, and people who do farming still poor, like the photos you see here. So agriculture contribute to sort of, this is some sort of statistic also take from Jonathan Ricks. So only about 10% of agricultural production contribute to national GDP, you know. But agriculture employ almost 40%. And people who live in rural areas above 50%. This is a sort of very quick picture of rural Thailand. So, okay, I talk about sufficiency economy in the sense that it could be potentially an alternative model to social development. But the government also proposed BCG models. I will go through it very quick, you know. BCG, B mean bioeconomy, C is circular, G is green. I think most of you already familiar with the idea. This is a photo of, you know, when Thai government talking about BCG, you know, it's about the application of advanced technology, particularly nanotechnology, to create value added to agriculture. And those technology as system biology, genomics technology, proteomics, DNA technologies, all sort of modern technology to create an industries, and agriculture will produce a sort of inputs to this technology, and the outputs will sort of create add value. The good example is biofuel, you know. This is from palm oils, I think. And in Thailand, it's still chaos, you know. The question is, should the public subsidize the price of the palm oil through, you know, making the palm oil into a sort of biofuels, diesel fuels? So the industry they will sort of put up here is sort of concerned with agriculture and food, medical and wellness. It is about beauty. It's about sort of thing and bioenergy. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not the economy. And lastly, it's about tourism and creative economy. So there are three core areas here: food and agriculture, medical and wellness, and tourism. Last section, I would like to sort of mention about well-being studies in Khon Kaen University. Let me go through it very quick. Khon Kaen University is here. This is a map of Thailand. The university founded in 1969, and currently we offer 5 clusters of training or study programs. That is health, science, agriculture, basic science, engineering, technology, and humanity and social science. The Faculty of Humanity and Social Science offer graduate and postgraduate programs in social science, public administration, which is including public administration, sociology, and of course, social development is included in social science. This is a program we currently offer under the social development, which is from bachelor degree to PhD. And PhD, we call it development science. And a few students from Indonesia complete their PhD from this program, but not with your university. Will be more welcome if you sort of got some researcher want to continue their their degree in Thailand. So we in PhD, and this is a sort of the core discipline, the core approach to social development. What we are doing here is we promote integration approach. We use mixed method, research method, and we sort of try to embrace what we call transdisciplinary. The area of research we currently conduct is we encourage our students to take on is urban studies, agriculture and food, and development and governance. And therefore, in this development approach is not more than economic growth, as I said. It's about human well-being. And this is why I said Khon Kaen University offer a sort of distinctive approach to social development, which we focus on human well-being. So it's what is human well-being is about freedom. That is from Amartya Sen's book. It's about health and autonomies. That's from philosopher Nussbaum. And well-being is, the definition of well-being is socially and culturally constructed. So you cannot achieve human well-being by using only economic growth, because well-being it's vary from society to society, vary from culture to culture. It's socially and culturally constructed, let's say. In order to achieve well-being, it does not mean that you disturb other people, like economic growth, you have to sort of exploit other people, but well-being, you have to recognize that and try to avoid to sort of undermine well-being of others as well. So in Khon Kaen University, we have a sort of research group on well-being and sustainable development. This is our website. but unfortunately, it's in Thai, entirely in Thai. So we are, you know, we will make it into English in the near future. So well-being in our approach, it's the core, at the center of social development theories, let's say. So the center that I show you here, it's emerged from development program called Well-being in Developing Countries, that coordinated by Bath University that 15 years ago. And after then we put up the center, and we have now more than 10 years existence, you know. And the center play a significant role in sort of support research of the students. And we have a number of our graduates who receive funding from the West. And this is apart from the research conducted by academic staff here. Okay, I will jump over, not talking about this another center, civil society here, because we may sort of run out of time. Okay, we have just only more or less half an hour for questions and answer. Professor Marinus, may I 5 minutes break? I want to go to the toilet. I'll be back with you. Okay.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
Halo. Halo semua, jadi narasumber kita ini pamit sekitar 5 menit ya.
Baik,
Ada
Pak.
pertanyaan dalam bahasa Indonesia atau perlu saya ringkas di dalam bahasa Indonesia? Tapi 5 menit mungkin sudah cukup. Saya ringkas saja ya, tolong diperhatikan semoga. Jadi summary ya. Tadi pertama Dr. atau Profesor Buafan berbicara tentang sejarah Thailand mulai dari zaman Angkor Wat di Kamboja. Kemudian yang paling menarik itu adalah bahwa tahun 90-an itu terjadi keajaiban pertumbuhan ekonomi di atas 10%. Tapi kemudian tahun 97 sama juga dengan di Indonesia terjadi krisis ekonomi, krismon. Dalam kasus Thailand itu recovery-nya, pemulihan ekonominya berjalan dengan cepat. Tetapi kemudian zaman sekarang itu ada masa kebingungan katanya ya, bewilderment and stalemate. Kebingungan dan jalan buntu, yaitu munculnya gerakan-gerakan progresif dari kaum muda yang ya mereka menolak apapun yang dilakukan oleh pemerintah. Lalu berikutnya yang sangat menarik adalah dalam kondisi sekarang itu ada dispute mengenai value, mengenai nilai-nilai. Nah ini sangat berbeda dari dispute dalam konteks kelas ya. Kalau kelas itu perbedaannya ekonomi, tapi di sini pertengkaran atau perdebatan atau perbedaan atau pertentangan nilai ini terjadi di segala strata. Kemudian pada zaman ini ada 4 tantangan zaman sekarang. Salah satu itu tadi dispute nilai, kemudian ketidakpastian terkait dengan digital teknologi, kemudian biaya tinggi, high stakes, lalu diperlukan respon yang cepat. Jadi kita tidak bisa menunggu-nunggu, situasi yang sekarang harus cepat direspon katanya. Lalu beliau menjelaskan mengenai pengertian dan ruang lingkup social development. Itu agak cukup panjang penjelasannya. Ada definisi yang sempit, ada definisi yang luas. Definisi sempit itu terkait dengan pendidikan, kesehatan, dan layanan-layanan dasar untuk memperbaiki kualitas hidup. Sedangkan secara luas social development itu berarti transformasi masyarakat. Yang dimaksud adalah transformasi ekosistem masyarakat. Lalu ya kedua definisi itu interchange ya, dalam praktiknya itu ya berlaku gitu di dalam kenyataannya. Kemudian dia mengatakan bahwa ada pembangunan sosial itu juga sebagai respon terhadap pertumbuhan ekonomi ya, paradigma pertumbuhan ekonomi. Ya, sebagai respon terhadap pertumbuhan ekonomi. Kemudian ada beberapa poin mengenai paradigma. Beliau mengatakan bahwa paradigma itu, saya kira kita semua sudah tahu ya, refer ke Thomas Kuhn, adalah prinsip atau dasar yang digunakan untuk menentukan normal tidak normalnya ilmu pengetahuan. Nah, yang tidak normal, yang di luar dari paradigma itu tentu saja dieliminasi. Dalam prakteknya, perkembangan ilmu pengetahuan itu hanya bisa tercapai menurut Thomas Kuhn kalau terjadi paradigm shift, terjadi peralihan atau perubahan paradigma. Artinya itu penolakan terhadap paradigma yang dominan, misalnya tadi paradigma pertumbuhan ekonomi, atau penolakan terhadap apa yang dianggap normal di dalam paradigma lama itu. Kemudian bagaimana bisa mentransformasi masyarakat. Sejauh ini ya kita negara-negara yang di luar West Europe ya, Eropa Barat dan Amerika Utara itu dianggap underdeveloped, tidak berkembang atau kurang berkembang atau sedang berkembang, dan cara ya yang kita tahu selama ini untuk mentransformasi masyarakat itu ialah dengan modernisasi. Sedangkan modernisasi berarti aplikasi atau penerapan pengetahuan dan teknologi barat. Kemudian halaman berikutnya, social development berarti modernisasi. Dalam realitasnya kita itu masih tergantung, Thailand itu masih tergantung ya, tergantung pada teknologi dan pengetahuan barat. Pertama, kedua terjadi banyak destruksi atau perusakan lingkungan, dan berikutnya ada berbagai macam masalah sosial. Contohnya di situ misalnya generation gaps, digital divide, lalu apalagi kelihatan saya tidak bisa saya baca, pengangguran dan lain-lain, termasuk korupsi. Nah, bagaimana cara mengatasi situasi seperti itu? Ya, termasuk juga di situ masalahnya adalah ketimpangan sosial. Nah, Thailand sekarang mengembangkan apa yang disebut Sufficiency Economy. Saya tidak tahu apa terjemahannya dalam bahasa Indonesia, tapi sufficiency itu berarti cukup, ekonomi yang cukup. Nah, ini falsafahnya itu dikembangkan oleh Raja Thailand ya, King Bhumibol. Dia mengatakan bahwa itu prinsipnya adalah kita memproduksi dan mengkonsumsi cukup saja, tidak kurang, tidak lebih. Intinya seperti itu. Nah, ini dianggap sebagai lawan dari ekonomi yang berorientasi pada pertumbuhan ya. Dan cukup diterima ya di negeri Thailand. Cuma kita tidak tahu bagaimana penerapannya. Selanjutnya dia menjelaskan beberapa hal ya terkait dengan penerapan itu. Saya kira beliau sudah kembali, jadi saya kasih waktu lagi. Sorry, I just summarize your presentation to those who maybe not very, maybe have some difficulties to understand the presentation. So please continue your presentation.
Yeah, press. Thank you, Professor, to sort of summarize my presentation. I'm sorry, too long, and in fact we should stop from here and then, and in order for people to to follow, people who that's not speaking English. So I got a few questions I see from the chat box here. Then I will I will try to cover every questions, but will perhaps a little bit summarize or articulated into a one questions. So the first question: what development paradigms adopted in Thailand or currently using in Thailand? I think this is clear. The development paradigm. I mean, if we're talking about dominant paradigm, it's no different than Indonesia. It's about creating economic growth, the economics paradigms of transforming our society, let's say, particularly convention economic paradigms. So in another academics, I cannot remember the degrowth, proportion. They name this approach as extractivism, meaning that like you do mining, you excavate resources from the earth and then remove it to somewhere and left, the place where you dig, you excavate the minerals in ruins. So that is the main paradigms, the dominant paradigm. We're still doing economic growth, let's say, let's put it in short. But there are also a minor paradigms or how you may call it alternatives or other competing paradigms in Thailand that adopted by NGO, by non-governmental organization, by local people, or even by some, government, some local government agencies. Something like to promote organic farms, to promote, can I say, integrated farmings, and to promote the idea of our king, King Bhumibol. When I talk about sufficiency economy, we call it in Thai, right now it's Kok Nong Na. It's three components of small farms, meaning you have a little bit higher land, and then you have reservoirs for your plots, and then you have a farming land like to grow rice or something like that. So this is what I would say alternative paradigms, not the dominant paradigm. Okay, so I don't know whether I answer your questions or not, but I would say in terms of dominant paradigms, I think development in Thailand would not too much different from what you are doing now in Indonesia. I think you also adopt economic growth, try to boost economic growth, things like that. Okay, the second question may be about a sort of values, value dispute in Thailand. This is a very, how can I say, very important, very good question and important. So the development paradigms also try to change your value, in order to modernize your economy. You need to sort of you need to adopt scientific ideas and not to believe in, sometimes spirits or over natural things like that, that is very, basic, fundamental. But right now, when we're talking about dispute, value disputes, it more than that, it having very fast, it happened very fast, within sort of 10 years or half generations, you will sort of, the young generation will not all, let talk from overview for our older generations like me, well, get difficulties in understanding the young people, why they act like this, why they spend their time on this, why they purchase a specific, items of goods, with in our view, in our older generation, it's useless. You spend your money without any benefit at all. That's also things are happening very fast. It's come along with consuming society, I think, where we produce goods and try to promote our goods. And in order to promote your goods, you have to change attitude of people. And this is also, you not recognize the importance of your environment, because your environment is something that you can sort of extract, you can use, you can employ to produce goods. And natural environment is God give us, it's free resources, no cost at all, you can. Okay, but dispute values, it's also about, political lifestyle and political ideas. Somebody is, in Thailand, somebody is, I must talking about generations, the younger generation more and more identify themselves with, modern society. Whereas the older generation in my age more and more identify themselves to sort of a traditional society. And I don't say that's exactly, the lie to divide the value dispute. Some old people like me, I myself also, love democracy, love freedoms, because we work in the university. But a number of people don't, and very worried about, young generations being demand for reforms, demanding for sort of changing our law here and there, and including changing the methods and the contents of teaching in your university, in our university. So we are now moving into a sort of the era where you cannot, if you live with some people 50 years and not change anything, it will be very difficult. But at the same time, if you change according to the demands of the young generation, something could risk to chaosity, uncontrollable, and that could collapse your society as well. So this is where we're talking about value dispute. But in Thailand, particularly, and you sort of one question is asking me about what do you think about international, international as never. Okay, when the okay, let me end about value dispute. Right now, at the moment in Thailand, we sort of have a sort of a critical dispute between generation. It seemed to be about democracy. It seemed to be modern and traditional society, but I think it's also about generations as well. So that's going on in Thailand, and it could be sort of leading us into a sort of a better society, or it could be leading us to a chaos. But I hope it will be sort of get back to normal in the near future. And one question is, Thailand has never been colonized by any country. So yeah, that is by formal history. We never been colonized, but got a lot of pressures and adjust. Like for example, the reforms I mentioned that instituted by King Rama V, that is in order to to meet the demands of Western powers. You need to open your country at that time, and need to give a freedom to traders to trade with traders from England, from French, something like that. But okay, Thailand never been formally colonized, but I think we have been influenced by Western technology, Western culture, Western idea, not a great extent compared with our, Malaysia, Myanmar, and Indonesia, for example. You've been under Dutch, but we also influenced by Western idea. The good things, perhaps not being under colonized by Western, allow us the continuity of our institutions, our traditional institutions, like absolute monarchies, not being get rid of by colonized power. So we have a sort of a continuities of our king rules and our traditional institution for and can survive, let's say, from being officially colonized. What is a good things right now? I think what we have as our distinct culture, but we are now in a great pressures from surroundings, from the world, whether from China, whether from Western economies. And I think in the near future, we have to sort of a little bit adapt or reforms ourselves in order to be able to survive. I don't know whether I answer your, I don't know whether my answer satisfies your questions or not. Okay, so that is my, what can I say about the answer, the questions you raised, which I see in the chat box. Any more questions? Dr.
Okay.
Martinus?
Yes. Silakan kalau ada pertanyaan. Kalau ada pertanyaan boleh menulis bahasa Indonesia, boleh bahasa Inggris di chat. Kalau ada yang mau, if you want to talk, please raise your hand.
Yeah, you can talk in Indonesia and Professor Martinus, can you please translate it? I'm no problem. Yeah.
Ya, bisa bahasa Indonesia.
Okay, sir. Can I ask you something, sir?
Silakan. Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you for the chance, Dr. Martinus Anang, sir, and thank you for the great presentation, Dr. Buapan. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Renaldi Popilatif. I am from the Social Development class 2020. What I want to ask that about the sufficiency economy. From the presentation that you give to us, the sufficiency economy is really fit to the agricultural state. And now that what I want to ask, what about your opinion if this sufficiency economy philosophy being applied into the industrial state or to the entrepreneur? Because from I know, the entrepreneur or the industrial state is really like to get profit as much as they can. So what about your opinion if the sufficiency economy being applied to the industrial state, sir?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Yeah, in my views, the sufficiency economy is a sort of philosophy. It can be applied not only in agriculture, but it can be applied across, I mean, in all sectors, the whole society. And that could transform our society. And your question about what will happen with sort of entrepreneur or the people who are working in modern economy, like traders, like companies, something like that. I think this, we need to shift our society from profit oriented or from competitions society to more or less share economy, SHARED, share economy. The share economy is rather different from the capitalist economy. Whereas the capitalist economy, you need to have a sort of you need to pursue maximize your profits, and in order to maximize your profit, you need to sort of accumulate first. You need to be stronger than other people, and in order to be stronger than people, you would sort of end up with monopoly. You need to control the market. You need to control everything, and then that is a sort of society we're moving towards. And right now, if you look at Thailand, we are already in that state already. You will, if you go to Thailand, you come out from the airport, you will see sort of 7-Eleven in every corner of the city. 7-Eleven is owned by a person, a company. So how can you do that? Because you are bigger than other people. If you want to do something similar to compete with 7-Eleven, you will lose because you cannot accumulate as much as as big as the 7-Eleven. I say this is not from the law perspectives. The law perspective, they say that we allow every people, we give all of you freedom. You can go down to the street and you can choose where you want to buy things, or you can choose what business you want to do. But in practice, it just exactly what happened to us. So this society will sort of end up with, you get some people getting richer, and the mass number of people will be just only the consumer. You are only the consumer. As long as you can earn money and can buy goods from 7-Eleven, you'll be survive. But if you get a problem, the government will sort of a little bit tax the capitalist and give you money to buy things from 7-Eleven. That is the model that we are doing right now. That it is not exactly happen what I explained you. So the sufficiency economy say that you need to balance. You need to okay. First, you need to sort of take how can I say the middle path. Not to go too big, not to go too small, and reasonableness. You produce what's necessary, what's useful, let's say, and thinking about the future generations, not just create your wealth and you enjoy consumption today or tomorrow in your life, and then you will create sort of problems to the next generations. That is reasonableness. And immunity is you need to sort of to prepare a little bit. Immunity is about adaptive capacity. So I think not too much oriented towards profit, maximization of profits, but share things you have and improve things you may not gain in terms of money, but you gain in terms of sort of your environment, your sort of your kids, your next generation will be sort of better off, something like that, and being not going to risks. So I think in terms of philosophy, yes, this is the way that I can explain you. This is the sufficiency economy works. But as I said, it's mostly applied to agriculture, to smallholder, but less in sort of modern economy. I wish if I'm a sort of policy maker, I will sort of, why we sort of employ sufficiency economy philosophy to sort of to our development. That is my view. Yes.
All right.
Thank you for the question.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir, for the answer. It's really great to know that sufficiency economy is maybe a good thing to be if we can make a policymaker.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, there is another one question in the chat room from Gabriel Pascalis Puma. Is there a professional union for social development academics after they graduate from university in Thailand?
Yes, we have an association. We form an association and we register, but we sort of cannot move. Cannot have a sort of how can I say a standard of practice of the member, like when you're a physical doctor, you're a member of a physical doctor, you will have sort of a standard of practice. I don't know what you call it in English. Let's say yes, but it's on the way to develop a sort of a kind of regulations, share visions in order to direct the members into the same way. And one of our aim is to sort of to deal with corruptions on the ground, you know. And we have our association can sort of can involve in order to sort of to improve corruption, something like that. But the society, the association is very, very loose compared with the association of the academics, the social workers, and sort of thing. As social development union is very not have a strong power, let's say, right now.
Oke, Pascalis, jadi sudah dijawab ya. Ada asosiasi tapi tidak punya kekuatan. We still have 1 more minute. If you have, kalau ada pertanyaan silakan, satu pertanyaan lagi, 1 more question.
Permisi Pak, saya mau nanya.
Silakan.
Okay, so I'm going to talk in English. So pardon me if my English is not really good. Top of the morning, sir. It's afternoon already, sir. So such an honor to meet a lecturer from another country. My name is Bagus Mardika. I'm from the International Relations Study Program 2021. So the question I give is maybe a little bit out of the topic, but I'm trying to correlating my question with your presentation that you gave before. So we know from a decade and a half ago, K-pop is starting to growing to the outer world. And from a decade ago, K-pop idol is not only taking people or trainees and debuting idol from Korea. So in case that I'm not from the social development study program, I'm from the international relations. So my question is kind of like more international kind of thing. In Thailand cases, there is like Nikon, Bam Bam, Lisa, Sorn, and Mini that is a K-pop idol from Thailand that's still active in this music industry. So the question is, if we connecting these cases with the presentation you gave before about the economic development, does K-pop industry gives good effect to the Thailand economy after the crisis in '97? And maybe there is some sector like the equality. There is a point about the equality that you shown in the presentation. So maybe there is some sector like the equality Thai people gets because of the fame that Thailand people get by those Thai idol that what can I say, work in Korea, and in which three pillars from sufficiency economy, Thai K-pop idol taking part in it. So if sufficiency economy have correlating stuff with the Thai K-pop idol, in which three pillars from the presentation that you give, K-pop idol taking part. Sorry for the English. That's my question. I'm gonna put my question in the chat box if you missing my sentence and word and stuff.
Yeah.
If you said.
Yeah. Yes, I think I follow you. I can get your point. Your English is, you know, a lot better than what we are in Thailand. Yeah. So about K-pop idol, I think to apply the sufficiency economy to this phenomena, to this event, it's not clear. You know, it's let's say it's not happen according to sort of the sufficiency economy, let's say, but it is about the values dispute that I think in this case, I think you may know details of the case better than me. You know, the K-pop, it's a sort of a daughter of leaders of the, you know, protesters in the past 10 years who protest against Thaksin government. But he, you know, the guy who protests against Thaksin government already passed away. So his daughter, you know, who was very more or less very similar to sort of this generation, particularly the ones who protest against the current government. You know, they want to be sort of freedom, so they can sort of express their views. They can travel. They can sort of go to Korea to learn about the arts, and but because of their views, because of their political views, they have been restricted. A number of them was arrested and jailed. So this is an issue. So to me, it is very unfortunate to this lady, to this young lady, you know, to be sort of a daughter of that protester leaders. I won't mention his name. It's not fair to her, you know, to sort of of course, her father's done a lot of damage to political situation, to politics in Thailand by supporting the military dictatorship, the military dictator to sort of to seize the power. But it's not fair to her to sort of to say that because of you are daughter of that guy, and we should sort of protest against her, not buying her sort of not buying the products produced from her company or something like that. So this is the work of digital things rather than philosophy economy. I don't know. I still have cannot sort of give you a good connections between the events we are talking about here and the sufficiency economy. But it does, you know, one of the big challenge for us, and it's very easily slipping into sort of we cannot control it. In previous, the ambassador of Thai ambassador in Cambodia get burnt because of you say something not good, but the reaction is it's a sort of overreaction, let's say, in that case. Here again, my views is that we should sort of tolerate something, and we should not seeing her as a sort of the same extent as what her father did in previous, and that will be a sort of if the similar thing happened to anybody, that will be it is as very unfair. That is what I can say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your answer. That's main opening for me. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I think we have run out of time, so I will not open a chance for another question, but I will highlight some important things. I have summarized the presentation before, so I don't need to summarize it again, but I think something very interesting to me is the sufficiency economy. I think it's new. At least the term sufficiency economy is new to me. And there are three pillars. The middle part is not too big, not too small, and then reasonableness, and then immunity. The concept is interesting, but I think I need to know more about it. And I also have some doubt whether it can be significantly applied in current contemporary societies, because it seems like you are against the current, the strong current of the society. But anyway, I have some question about it, but we have run out of time. So I think we need to learn about it more. We have also what our president called revolusi mental revolution by President Joko Widodo in his first term campaign. He coined that term, but I had a doubt about it, and then I see there is no implementation of the mental revolution. Of course, there is a difference, because mental revolution is not the same as sufficiency economy. It's about mental. It's about way of thinking in general, and way of behave. Anyway, we have to learn more about the points you raised in the presentation. I wish we have more discussion about it.
Yeah. I myself wish to visit the university in at the place, and hopefully in the future after the pandemics we can enjoy. You can come to visit Thailand, and I wish I could come.
Yeah, you're welcome. We are very happy to welcome you in our university.
Yeah.
The next is berikutnya kita adalah acaranya apa berikutnya? Ini penyerahan sertifikat ya. We have a certificate for Dr. Buafan. thank you for your presentation. We present a certificate. Reza sudah siap?
Ya Pak,
Persiapan sertifikatnya di
saya kirim ke Bapak aja ya.
langsung di aja supaya tidak lama.
Di share screen.
Ya.
Oh baik, siap. Sebentar.
Belum kelihatan.
Bentar Pak.
Belum kelihatan. Oh iya, buat teman-teman yang tadi tidak mengerti apa itu 7-Eleven ya. 7-Eleven itu seperti Indomaret ya, convenience store yang ada jaringannya di mana-mana. Setahu saya 7-Eleven itu ada di Thailand, ada di Philippines, ada di Jepang, dan ada di negara lain juga. Jadi
Thank
itu
you very much.
Cukup, Pak.
Dr. Buafan, we deliver this certificate, e-certificate of participation. Let me read it. This is to certify that Dr. Buafan Ompukping, I think it's like a different way to write your name, the first name. You wrote Buapun.
Yeah. I can correct it through email. So the last name is also not the spelling is not correct, but that's okay. That's me. Okay, Buapan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is to certificate that Dr. Buapan from Pukping for his outstanding performance as speaker in the general lecture, Social Development Paradigms and Practices in Thailand, held in Samarinda, Indonesia, on December the 2nd, 2021. Signed by Dr. Skapti M. Hum, the head of our department. So we will change this name with the correct one.
Yeah, I can correct it through email. But thank you very much. Thank you for sort of giving me a certificate. And I hope in the future we can do the same way with you we do today, and is that we may sort of ask you to present something for us, like online, for our students in the future. I will sort of connect with you in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak. Thank you to all students. There are many. In the beginning, it was more than 300. But now only 268.
Right. Okay.
But that's a big audience, I think.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Dr. Buafan. Maybe we will still have time to, like Dr. Daryono said, we will have some talk after this.
Yeah.
Gimana Pak Daryono?
Shall I leave the meeting or shall I remain?
Gimana Bu Kapti untuk percakapan dengan Pak Buafan?
Baik, mungkin yang lain biar live dulu Pak pesertanya, biar nanti lagi ya. Pak Daryono sedang uji.
Oh, jadi langsung atau
Jadi
atau off dulu?
Ya, pesertanya ini off dulu. Biar pesertanya keluar dulu Pak semua aja.
Oke, jadi all the participants, students, they can leave, but we stay, including Dr. Buafat.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Ya. Thank you very much. Ya, terima kasih ya mahasiswa ya atas
Thank you,
partisipasinya.
sir. Thank you, sir.